This is Neil Diamond singing Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show. Came out in the 60s and was used most prominently in the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood movie trailer. And I'm playing it for a specific reason because I saw it this weekend and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And we're going to do a review of it. Spoiler heavy review of it, actually. But this is Dylan Knows live on a Sunday, August 25th, which just so also happens to be my son's 10th birthday. We had his party yesterday yesterday. I'll talk about that a little later. And he opened some presents from his friends, and his grandmother came over yesterday. And he saw his other grandmother at the party with his friends. And then today, we went and got him some stuff with some of the money his grandmother gave him. And then we had donuts. And then we're going to take him to IHOP for dinner because that's what he wants for his birthday. And then we'll open his presents then. So we'll talk about that a little later right now. But this is Dylan Knows episode, coincidentally enough, 310. 10 years of the sun. Obviously, for obvious reasons, for my son's birthday. A lot of stuff to talk about this week. A lot of interesting stuff going on. Hell, D23, Disney's like big event, or maybe not Disney alone, but the electronic event D23 was huge amount of news came out, just loads and loads of it. I think it was Friday night or Saturday. It was Saturday, I think. No, it was Friday night. Friday night, a lot of this came out, I think, if I recall. Yes, it was Friday night, all this stuff came out. And because the kids were selling popcorn from 6 to 8, and that's when I was getting all this stuff. Also, a new edition of In Dreams, some Florida Man stuff, lacy bra and panties for men. NASA's going to investigate its first ever space crime. New books. Some cryptozoological sightings of lake monsters are starting to come out a little bit more. Football season is in full swing. Pokemon Go went absolutely insane earlier this week also, revealing a whole bunch of stuff. My Once Upon a Time in Hollywood review. My son's 10th birthday party. Floaty tents. Kangaroos in the snow. Just wait to see where this raccoon got discovered. Lots of trailers and some big anniversaries, particularly one today. 80 years ago today, on August 25th, 80 years ago, a little movie called The Wizard of Oz premiered. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the other stuff that came out this week, anniversary-wise. And all kinds of stuff. But yeah, the D23 stuff, man, is absolutely insane. We're going to get to that sooner than later. And about probably half hour or so, I'll do my Once Upon a Time in Hollywood review. Quick review right now. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. You should go see it. It's a little bit different than what Quentin usually does, which is maybe one of the reasons why I liked it. So we'll work on that. So let us giddy up now and go on with what we got. So first up, let's start with, I already mentioned it, so it's not the first story, but I figured this would be an interesting one to start with. Lacy bra and panties for men are now available. So if you have always felt kind of jealous that your girlfriend, wife, whatever, got to wear the sexy bras and panties, and if you're lucky enough to be able to see stuff like that, well, now you can have your own ones. So you have man boobs like I have. But yeah, they're offering lacy bra and panties for men out there. So I guess you just have to find the right spot to look for them. I wouldn't wear them, but that's just me. Real quick though, this like last 3 days, the weather has been absolutely phenomenal and get me really into the fall spirit, because next weekend is Labor Day weekend, which is technically the unofficial end of summer, even though it doesn't officially end until September 23rd. But still, it is the unofficial end of summer. Kids go back to school next Tuesday. We're one of the last states in the union to do that, because it seems like every other state in the world has already started school. But for some reason, our damn state thinks that, oh, we have to start after Labor Day, blah, blah, blah. Well, I've already gone down that road, and I'm not going to do it anymore. So let's do it like that. So, there's also, I forgot to push another big story. We'll get to that in a second. A lot of big stuff happened this week. Just in time for, since I brought up the weather, getting cooler, fall's coming. Japan is releasing an all black Dorito for Halloween that's garlic flavored to fend off the vampires. So, a garlic flavored all black Dorito could be pretty cool. I know there are some black tortillas out there. So, basically, I guess you just get the tortilla, the Dorito magic going, and there you go. Let's see. Also for Halloween, you can get angel wings for dogs. If you want your dogs to wear angel wings, you can get them now for dogs as well. And also, I saw this too today. For your Star Wars fan, dog fan in you, they also now have a Bantha dog costume. The Banthas are those big, like elephant-looking things from Star Wars the Sand People ride on. Well, you can get a Bantha costume for your dog, including the big horns and some other stuff as well. So, and I think they have like an inflatable Sandman that sits on his back, so you can tell what it is. So, kind of interesting, I guess. Also, actually, I'll do that with Pokemon. It's a double feature with Pokemon. A rat bites a tourist at Disney World, and the tourist is threatening to sue Disney. I mean, why not? You know, the rat bit you on the property of Disney. It's their job, I guess, to clean up vermin and stuff like that, stop them from happening. Disney is one of the has some of the most successful companies out there. So why not try to get some free money out of it after getting bit by a rat that I don't think had rabies? So, oh well, people get money, try to get money any way they can. Judge throws a drunk driver's mother into jail after she was laughing at the victim's family. So basically, drunk driver gets caught, I guess hit a car or something, and went to trial. And at the trial, the drunk driver's mom was in the audience, I guess, to help with, support her child. And she was laughing at the people who were attacked and hit by this drunk driver, and the judge rightfully threw her ass in jail as they should have. So, why gotta be a dick? These people have had damage to it, and it's your damn kid's fault because they were drinking and driving, and you think it's funny that your kid could have killed somebody, or your kid could have been killed themselves because they were driving drunk. Okay, whatever. You're just a lousy parent. Speaking of lousy, I just have to bring this up because it's really funny. And it's also it's now multiple occurrence. This isn't on my list. I just thought of it. So yesterday we, and I'll talk about this more when I get to Noah's birthday party. We went to a place called Urban Air Adventures, or something like that, out in White Marsh. And it's basically a combo of trampolines and wall climbing and ninja courses and dodgeball and all kinds of stuff, pipe things you can run through and stuff like that. And when we got to the parking lot, there was a car. I was trying to pull into the spot next to it, but the car was over the line, so it was taking up sort of two spots. I thought I could fit it in, but I couldn't, so I ended up going to the one next to it that was open. This car had a license plate from New York. It's like, okay. So then after I park, I get out and I turn around, and right behind me, there's an asshole who's parked their car from Delaware over two spots. Like this time, I mean, that person obviously might have done it by accident with it being over the line a little bit. This person deliberately was like right in the middle of two parking spots, and they were from Delaware. And I was like, out of state drivers, So I didn't think much about it. So then we went to Target today. Noah wanted to go check out some stuff and see if he could get some cool toys and stuff like that from Target. So pull into the Target parking lot, and there's a yellow Corvette from Virginia that's parked similar to the New York one, where he's a little bit more than, I think he was being more of a dick, because the one from New York wasn't. It just looked like they pulled in wrong. But this person from Virginia was like not halfway like Delaware was, but still was taking up two spots. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? And then I turn around again. I'm walking down the parking lot. There's another car from Virginia that's parked almost the exact same way. I was like, what is wrong with out-of-state drivers? So we've had a New York and a Virginia and a Delaware license plate cars parking stupidly. So, morons. I just had to bring that up. It's just kind of funny, I guess. A Florida man was arrested after a botched home castration on a man he met on the dark web eunuch fetish website. There's a headline for you. For those who don't know, eunuchs were people who in the old days would get their hoo-has, well, no, that's the female version of it, their thingamadings sliced off so that they could continue to have high voices. They did that mostly for slaves or for people to sing songs, because you want to have the magical angel-like voices. And when your kids are younger, before they hit puberty, they've got those high-pitched angelic voices. But when they hit puberty, that's when their voice starts going down low, like mine is and other people's. But in order to keep that, and the good reason because of that is because of your ding-a-ling downstairs has started to form more and your hormones are building up, stuff like that. So you slice that off and it cuts out the hormone aspect of it and you become what they call a eunuch. So apparently on the dark web, there is a eunuch fetish website where people like to either get castrated or hang out with people who have been castrated, which is the contemporary term for cutting off your hoo-ha ding-dong, not your hoo-ha, your ding-dong. So this Florida man was arrested after a botched home castration. So I guess he met somebody on this website. They were fooling around a little bit, and then he suggested, "Hey, can I cut off your ding-a-ling?" And the guy was like, "Sure." And the guy pulled out the knife and didn't do it right. So the internet is weird. You okay, bud? Yeah. Okay. I'm just doing my show live. What's up? Want to come down and say hi?
Oh, I thought you started.
Yeah, I started. Yeah, I'm 12 minutes in. Yep. This boy's 10 today. Did you want something or you just?
I was just gonna go get something.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Let's see. There's two big stories there. Iceland is holding a funeral for the first glacier lost to climate change. It was they put a plaque warning of the disaster that's coming. So Iceland has all these really gorgeous glaciers, which are ice and snow, packed big things that have been there forever and never melt because the temperatures are staying temperate. Well, now with climate change happening and the temperatures skyrocketing, these glaciers are melting. And the first one in Iceland has melted, and it's been there forever. So now it's not there. So the people of Iceland held a funeral of sorts for it and put a plaque up warning saying, used to have a glacier that's been here for centuries and now it's gone due to stupid ass people. So that's good and bad. I mean, it's all bad, I should say, but it's good that the Icelandic people are trying to draw attention to it when a lot of people are just ignoring the fact that this stuff is happening. That and the Amazon rainforest on fire, which is scaring me a lot more than it should. Considering that is the maker of about 10% of the oxygen on this planet. And if it all burns down, guess what? We're not going to have a lot of oxygen left over. Let's see. I'll hit some of these smaller ones before I get to the big ones. Underwater drone captures a great white shark circling oblivious surfers in California. And it was pretty clear shots of these sharks. Just sort of swimming around and surfers up above. So I don't think he was going after attacking them, but the fact that he was so close to a shark and he was way underwater, so they didn't know he was there, that's kind of scary too, because you can't see when you're in the water because the way the water is, it's not clear. So you can't see under the water. And the fact that there was a giant great white shark underneath you is kind of scary. South Dakota woman. No, that's usual. You never heard that before. A South Dakota woman who thought she was having kidney stones goes to the hospital because she's, complaining of this pain that she believes is coming from kidney stones. The doctors take a closer look at her and say, "Ma'am, those aren't kidney stones. Those are kids." She ends up giving birth to triplets. Now, you always think, how can you not know if you're pregnant? And I honestly can't answer because I'm not a woman. But I mean, I know some of the generalities of it. And I know there's been shows on like the Science Channel, stuff like that, which are all about people who are oblivious to the fact that they were pregnant and then they end up having kids. So I don't know. It's odd. It's kind of weird. So um, part of the D23 event, Disney was doing their Legends thing. Ming-Na Wen got inducted into the Disney Legends, as did Robert Downey Jr. And Robert Downey Jr. had an interesting speech he wanted to do, obviously. So while he accepted his, not indictment, in being inducted into the Legends program, he told a speech about how when he was younger, his first visit to Disneyland out in California, he was caught smoking pot in Disneyland. And so they escorted him out and threatened him, says, if you come back again and you're smoking pot, you're going to be banned for life, that type of thing. So, and that's something that, believe it or not, I would love to read down the line. I'd love to read when Robert Downey Jr. starts getting a little older and he starts getting close to like retirement age, or he decides he wants to try something and he writes his memoir. I would love to read his memoir, his remembers, to see if he remembers his time of his drug addicted past. Just because to see it from their perspective, and these stories that he probably has, he could tell, kind of interesting. Same thing with, I think Demi Moore has a new book coming out this winter or in next year sometime. It's an autobiography about her marriage life with Bruce Willis and Ashton Kutcher, and that's fascinating to me also. I think that'd be a really cool book to read also. So I'm looking forward to that as well, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that. So I cannot wait till Robert Downey Jr. decides to write a memoir, and then not just about his drug stuff, but he can write about filming the Iron Man movies and also his career in the 80s and early 90s, which was, honestly, if he wasn't stuck on drugs, Robert Downey Jr. would probably be considered to be one of the greatest actors of our time. I mean, he still can be, but he lost so much time due to his drug problems and lost out on so many possible performances and movies that could have just cemented him as being up there with a Bogart or a James Dean or the guy from Wonderful Life. I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me when I least expect it, but stuff like that. He could be one of the greatest actors of our time, but no, that's okay. Speaking of books, Max Brooks, who is Mel Brooks' son, is the writer of the book World War Z, which is actually, if you've never read World War Z, the book itself, the movie's okay, but if you've never read the book, you absolutely are missing out because the book is excellent. It's a oral history of the zombie apocalypse, and it's actually a zombie apocalypse, I should say, and it's fascinating, and it is so well done. And so I was excited this week when I discovered a story that said, oh, by the way, coming next year, Max Brooks is following up his World War Z, I think he's probably written a few stuff after that, but is going to be releasing a new book about Bigfoot called Devolution. And it's about a Bigfoot that attacks a town. And right now I'm in the middle of reading the Bigfoot Casebook, which is a nonfiction book about it's a history of Bigfoot sightings from the 1800s to 2004. They haven't updated it to 2019, but still it's up to 2004. And it has in the back every sighting that they have found from the 1800s to 2004 in little bit formats. And you can look at ones that aren't even mentioned in the book proper. The book proper just gives a historical, this is what happened here. These are, the big ones. And then this in the back is a glossary, is a listing of every single sighting that has been reported. And you'd be surprised about how many you could find in your state or near you. Like I was looking through the back a little bit before I'll read it eventually when I get to the end of it. But Bel Air, Maryland has a number of them, and Bel Air, Maryland is not like a urban sprawl thing. It's a rural sprawl. It's a pretty regular towns, a lot like Reisterstown. So the fact that they had multiple Bigfoot sightings over about a 10-year time, the first one was like in 1968, the other was like 75. The fact that they've had that before is kind of fascinating that there have been sightings like that before. So it's a neat book. But this book is going to be similar. It's going to be like an oral history of this Bigfoot attack on this town, and it sounds really, really cool, and I can't wait to read it. So that's coming out next year also. So there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff coming out next year, book-wise. When they come out and I've read them, I'll probably do some reviews of them or whatever. So that's good. An armed real estate agent shoots an attacker at a home showing. So I guess that's something you never really thought of, when you're showing a house to prospects who want to buy it. What if they decide to, because usually it's just the real estate agent and the people. So what if they decide to attack you or try to rob you or whatever? This one luckily was armed and was able to fend off their attacker. But the fact is that's got to be kind of scary being a real estate person. Now, obviously, it's probably doesn't happen all that often, but still the fact that it has happened is kind of frightening a little bit. Okay, I think I pushed enough. Oh no, do double NASA stuff in Dreams, and then three kind of big stories. Next, a star exploded so violently that it completely annihilated itself. Now, usually when stars explode, you'll get remnants of it still lingering. Sometimes it's a smaller star, a different type of star, whatever, supernova, whatever, that's visible. This explosion was so violent, it literally obliterated itself. So it blew up, and then it erased itself from existence because it was so strong of an explosion. And that's never really happened before. And NASA's kind of like, really? This is kind of a first also. NASA's investigating the first ever space crime. There's never been a crime committed in space because really, to be honest, there's really not any place you could do it until recently with the ISS, the International Space Station. And that's where the story takes place. Apparently, a woman who is on board the ISS right now, or I think might have just landed, that's how they got her, was illegally accessing her ex-husband's bank account from space. So basically, she's up in the ISS and says, I'm going to screw this guy for being a dick. So she accesses his account and tries to steal his money to put from space. And that's really kind of cool. So it's the first ever space crime. There's a book that I have on my Amazon wish list that maybe I'll get for Christmas, or maybe I'll just get for the hell of it sometime. A fictional book about, a moon colony where they have the first ever murder in space. Has to be investigated. Someone gets killed on the moon and they have to investigate that. That sounds like a really neat idea for a story. So again, more books. Books are good. Books are fun to read. This one's kind of a small story compared to the big ones we get ready to cover. Emma Watson, who played Hermione Granger, and Tom Felton, who played Draco Malfoy. Are they dating? Where's the proof about this? Well, the present story right now that is being spread everywhere is that they're really, really good friends, which is fine because, the Harry Potter people, they've worked together for 10 years and they grew up together and they're still all friendly to each other. And some of them are more into their characters, or the characters they used to play. They go to the Harry Potter conventions and they do, take pictures with fans and stuff like that. Tom Felton's one of those guys that you got to absolutely love. Draco Malfoy is one of the most awful characters in the series. He gets not really redeemed, but you get to kind of see where his head is at in the last couple books. But in this case, Tom Felton plays him absolutely perfectly. And in real life, though, Tom Felton is apparently, from what I've been seeing, is one of the absolutely nicest guys you've ever met in the whole world. And whenever he goes out, he's always willing to, sign autographs, take pictures with fans. And then if he happens to run into old members of the cast. He always, coerces them into taking pictures with him and all kinds of stuff. He and the actor Jason Isaacs, who played his dad, Lucius Malfoy, they still have a very close relationship. And, whenever it's Tom's birthday, oh God, I just said his name too. The actor who plays Lucius Malfoy, he sends a tweet saying to my son, treating him like my son, another happy birthday here for that. And then he does it for his dad's birthday, and then they take pictures with each other, and it's very kind of sweet. It's very sweet to see that. Now, Daniel Radcliffe, he will say that he'll always be grateful for Harry Potter, but he's always sort of tries to separate him from stuff of that. And Rupert Grint has sort of separated himself from that as well. Emma has somewhat, though. There's been a couple stories out. There was one where she was walking through New York City on Halloween, and she saw a little girl, or a little boy rather, maybe dressed up as Harry Potter. And she went down and said, "I'm Hermione Granger, and you're my best friend, Harry Potter," type of thing. "It's good to see you, Harry," and stuff like that. She got pictures taken and stuff like that. So she's still kind of into him. But, and as I said, Tom Felton, whenever he sees one of his old castmates, Jason Isaacs, that's who it is, sees one of his old castmates, who always takes pictures with them and hangs out with them. Well, he seems to hang out a lot with Emma Watson. Now, he's posted pictures before on his Instagram, and she has as well, with them like meeting at the beach and going roller skating or something like that. Well, the one that got everybody sort of hot and bothered this week, was released this week, is a picture of Tom Felton teaching Emma to play the guitar. But here's the thing. It looks like they're at Tom's house, and looks like they're both wearing pajama type stuff. And Tom looks like he might have just woke up. So it's almost as if they had spent the night together and got up the next morning and had breakfast or whatever. And then Emma's like, "I kind of want to play the guitar." And so Tom's over there, arm around her, moving her, helping her move, stuff like that. So, they say they're not dating. I think it would be absolutely fantastic if they were. But if it's just friendship, it's just friendship. That's cool. But it just seemed kind of an odd picture. If you were actually going out and about, you'd want to, Tom Felton, he might stay unshaven for a while, but his hair would have been neater and he wouldn't be wearing his pajamas. And Emma was wearing, looked like was pajamas also. So who knows what's going on with that? And really, to be honest, it's not our area to ask or wonder about, because it's their lives and they don't know us anything. But it's just funny. Potterheads are kind of interesting to try to, something to talk about, I guess is the proper term. All right, so let's do my in dreams. This was a weird one I had on Tuesday. I dreamt, and I think it was in black and white also, if I recall, that I was on Saturday Night Live's first episode. But instead of it filming in New York, it was filmed in a residential church that had a revolving floor inside of it, so that there would be multiple sets set up, and the audience would be revolved to see where you need to go. And there was a big parking lot, and there was a porta potty outside. And the thing is, there I saw Chevy Chase as he was a youngster, but then there were other people who are older and weren't around in the 1970s, and I was how I look now in the 1970s. And when we did the show, my sister-in-law and my in-laws and my sister, and so they were watching the show, and they were the age they're looking now, and not as they looked in 76, 77, whenever they did Saturday Night Live originally. I think it was 77, I think. And then here's two other really weird stories. There's this parking lot is massive, and there's one porta potty, and I was walking outside, and a woman, didn't know who it was, opened the porta potty door, and it was all this smoke just drifted out like she was smoking pot in there and was running into the studio. Another one was when I first got there, I had parked down the road instead of in the parking lot, because not knowing I was allowed to park in the parking lot or whatever. So when I discovered I could actually park in the parking lot, I walked back down to my car and got in my car, and it was my van actually. And I was getting ready to move back up when this kid, young kid, probably like 14, 13 years old, comes running at me with a battering ram trying to smash into my car. And so I'm like driving backwards all the way down this really, really, really long parking lot, end up parking my car, and I don't see the kid anymore. So that was weird. And that was actually once I parked the car and I got out, that's when the woman came running out of the porta potty with all the smoke coming out of it. So that was just kind of an interesting thing, but kind of the fact that it was a Saturday Night Live thing, because it looked like we were doing it was like the pilot also. It was like, okay, if this is successful, we'll go to New York and we'll do it. And as I said, I thought I saw a young Chevy Chase, but that might have been about it. And there was just a lot of different people in there. So kind of weird. Now, there's two big news stories today, both involving Disney. The first one is older and it's still being talked about to this day. Earlier this week, it was discovered that Sony and Disney have dissolved their partnership, allowing Spider-Man to be in the MCU. So after making a deal and having Spider-Man show up in Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and his own 2 movies, that's 6 films he was in, Sony and Marvel, I guess it was time for them to come up to a renegotiation of their deal to keep Spider-Man in the MCU. And Disney, who I think had accepted only like a 10% of like the gross of these Spider-Man appearances in the Spider-Man movies, wanted to up it to 30%. And Sony was like, no. And Sony, being emboldened with the success of Venom, decided that they could make their own Spider-Man film since Venom was successful. So they parted ways. Now it's not over till it's over. I mean, you're going to keep hearing stories like Kevin Feige and Tom Holland were told that there's no way Spider-Man's ever going to be in the MCU again, but you never say never. Something could change, something could happen down the line. So we'll see what happens. There's also a possibility Tom Holland still might be Spider-Man, or if Sony wants to just completely erase the fact that he was ever in the MCU, they might cast someone else and have a 4th Spider-Man, which would be absolutely stupid. Yes, I know we've had 5, actually we've had 6 Batmans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on. 6. Pattinson's number 6. We've had, movie-wise, not Adam West. We've had Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, the dude from Batman Begins, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, and now Pattinson. So yeah, there's been 6 Batmans. And now this will be if they decide to go away from Tom Holland, it'll be a 4th Spider-Man. It was like, really? I mean, look, it'll be fun that Sony owns all the Spider-Man characters. They'll be able to fight kind of his own bad guys. Grand Mysterio was lucky enough to get into, and the Vulture, I guess, were lucky enough to get into this one, but they still own the rights to all these other characters. So we'll see what happens. But it's a shame. And, once the announcement was made, Sony's stock dropped dramatically. Also, with the whole thing about people storming Area 51. Now there are people saying they want to storm Sony to steal Spider-Man back and bring him back to the MCU. There's petitions out there to bring Spider-Man back to the MCU. Jeremy Renner went out saying, Sony, deliver Spider-Man to Disney so he can be the MCU or work out a deal or whatever. I don't think he ordered them to do it. But and there might be some other Spider-Man stories that are in here that I might not have hit yet. Well, when I get there, I can check them off when I see them. But there's just a lot of stuff. And the story is ongoing right now. So we will see what comes of it. So there's that. My take on it, I agree with some people. I think the Spider-Man in the MCU is not really proved to be the one true Spider-Man. Tom Holland is perfectly cast, I think, but the fact that they connected him so much to Iron Man, giving him it basically was Iron Man light, basically giving him all these robotic spider suits, stuff like that. I don't like that. I liked the fact that Spider-Man made his own stuff and made his own spider web solution, and was a hard luck case, had lots of bad stuff keep happening to him, amongst all that, but still kept going. I want to see more of that. I don't want to see him getting all these insane Spider-Man costumes, and the fact that Tony Stark had built all these costumes for him. I mean, granted, maybe it was, he felt that this was the only way he could have a son or something like that. But you all right? Okay. It just seemed a little obnoxious to me. But in the end, I mean, the movies are still good, and I still like as I said, I like Tom Holland in it, and Marissa Tomei is nice, hot Aunt May. And I like the diversified cast, because, to be honest, if you go into high school in New York City, it's going to be a diversified cast. You're not going to have just white people there, because New York City is like the ultimate melting pot. You're going to have everybody there, so you're going to have, all nationalities in there as well. And the fact that they sort of had a very diversified cast is great, and the fact that they've cast some really good villains. Michael Keaton, you can never go bad with playing a good version of the Vulture. And then Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I've never been a big fan of Jake Gyllenhaal, but his Mysterio is really, really good. So go for it, man. So there's that. So we'll see what happens, to be continued. I mean, as of now, it looks like nothing's going to happen. Is there a possibility to still make a deal? Sure. It's a possibility that there's never going to be another deal? Sure. It's a possibility that Sony's going to do a fourth Spider-Man series? Sure. Is it going to be any good? Who knows? The fact that disappoints me is the fact that he belongs in the MCU, so he can cross over with these characters and be with these other characters and not be on his own little island by himself. So there's that. And then the other big news, this one was huge, just the amount of info dump that just was dumped on Friday night. And there's some other stuff that I didn't get connected that came through yesterday as well. But D23 is like electronics convention type of thing, where some people, do reveal new things that are coming out. In this case, Disney decided to drop a lot of info about their Disney Plus, since Disney Plus is rapidly coming. November 12th is the date Disney Plus goes live. So we've only got about 2 months, a little bit more than 2 months, I guess. It's the 25th. So 25th to September to October. Yeah, it's like 6. So it's like 30, 31, 62. It's like 73 days before we get Disney Plus. So they dropped a ton of stuff, and they just want to keep reminding people, 11/12, it's coming soon. So I need to get, maybe soon, I want to get a subscription to it, because Disney Plus, I already decided I was going to do it. It's cheap, and it's all the information they're going to have that they revealed here. They revealed that they're going to have every Pixar movie, every Disney animated film, and I think they even said every Disney live action film is all going to be a part of their library. The Star Wars saga, every Star Wars thing, the offshoots, the trilogies, all the new stuff, that's going to be part of the streaming service. All the Marvel movies are going to be part of the streaming service as well. I don't know if that includes the Sony Marvel ones. I think it will, but who knows with Sony and Marvel being the way they are now. So you're going to have all that. And then you're going to have all this other crazy stuff going on. So now, back at San Diego, back in July, the Phase 4 was revealed to us. MCU's Phase 4 was revealed to us, with them disclosing what movies and TV shows will be coming in 2020 and 2021. We got official confirmation about the Falcon and Winter Soldier and who's going to be in that. We got official confirmation that Loki's going to have his own series, that Wanda and the Vision are going to have their own series, and the What If cartoon is official, and the movies that are going to be coming out over the next years: Black Widow, Eternals, Doctor Strange 2. I forget what the other one is. What's the other one that's coming out in 2021? Thor 4, and there's one other one I think I missed. And they're coming out. And then we know for a fact right now, 2022 is when Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be out. Number 3, I think it's 2022, because Gunn hasn't even started filming Suicide Squad yet. He's going to probably film that next year, and then that'll be released 2021. So it'll probably be 2022. So Guardians of the Galaxy has already been pretty much predicted to be out in 2022, I think. Though we did get news here at D23 that Black Panther is actually going to be getting the May 6, 2022, the coveted May spot for Phase 5 happening in 2022. So Black Panther 2 is officially coming out May 6, 2022. That was announced at D23 also. So Guardians might go back to their, well, when they first came out, they came out in August, then they came out in May, and so maybe they'll go back to August, or maybe it's going to be pushed to 2024. I'm not exactly sure, or maybe it'll come earlier in 2023. I'm not sure, but we pretty certain that 2022 is when Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will be out. Though I don't think it has been officially signed off on. I'm not sure, but anyway, regardless. But this is what we discovered. Darcy from Thor, Inspector Wu from Ant-Man and the Wasp are also going to be in WandaVision. They announced that this week at D23. U.S. Agent has been cast and will appear in the Falcon and Winter Soldier story, along with, as we already know, Baron Zemo and Sharon Carter. And they announced new TV shows from Disney Plus. Miss Marvel will be getting her own TV show, and she'll be able to appear in movies coming up. This is, again, not till 2022 at the earliest. Moon Knight will be getting his own show on Disney Plus. Again, will probably be able to be used in movies as well. And She-Hulk will be getting her own series. Now, we've heard rumors of Hulk and She-Hulk working together. This one just had She-Hulk's name, so it's a possibility that Hulk may appear, but might only be a minor character and not share the billing with her. So that's something. So all those were announced to be coming to Disney Plus. Now, Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends, a cartoon that'll have Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Spider-Gwen, will be appearing on Disney Junior. It's more aimed for kids. So that's going to be coming up. That was announced on D23 also. And the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur cartoon will be coming to the regular Disney Channel. That was announced as well. So that's good too. So you got another really good story there as well. Now, is that everything else is not Marvel related? That's all pretty much the Marvel related stuff. We have some Star Wars news. The Clone Wars final season, we knew that was coming on Disney Plus, has been announced for February. We'll be premiering in February. So we'll be seeing that in February. One of the last surprise announcements of the last day was that there have been rumors of it, but now it's official. Ewan McGregor will be back as Obi-Wan in a TV series showing up on Disney Plus that's going to be set during the same time frame as Solo, a Star Wars story. And the other news that they announced was that every script for it, it's probably going to be like 8-9 episodes, has already been written. So they will be starting to film that sooner than later. Once Ewan's schedule opens up, they will probably be revealing that as well. Now, the other big thing the other thing that Disney Plus announced this week is that they will be releasing their series weekly. So you will not get one whole season dump on one day like you do on Netflix. They will release the first episode on this day, the next one the week after, till you've gone through the whole 9 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. So it'll be concurrent weeks like that. So it'll be released weekly instead of just one big dump. It's kind of a way to build up, get back to old-fashioned TV. And I kind of like it. I kind of dig it and I kind of dig the way Netflix does it too, because sometimes you just want to watch the whole thing in one sitting and not have to wait for weeks, particularly like the Marvel ones were like 13 episodes. So it'd be like half a year it would take for a series to get done. I mean, not half a year, but 13 weeks is 3 months, basically. A quarter of the year, I should say, for a show to get out. But in this case, since the series are going to be smaller, 8, 9, 6 episodes, stuff like that. Having them released in concurrent weeks is actually not a bad idea. That way you can also build up to. They also showed that the screens are going to be used the same way as Netflix. So it'll have the listing. I'll say, hey, all your Star Wars movies are here. So you can go and you click on which one you want and it'll stream it that way and so on and so forth. And you'll have a search engine and stuff like that. So things like that happen. So that's good. So more proof. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to do this and then we'll do that. There's also announced a nonfiction series called The World According to Jeff Goldblum. And they show the trailer. It's hilarious. And it's just Jeff Goldblum going around and discovering things, like talking about ice cream and shoes and denim and dancing and swimming and doing all this stuff and just meeting people and talking to them and doing stuff. It looks hilarious. It's going to be a half-hour show. It looks fantastic. So that should be good. So now more proof that, when Disney Plus premieres on 11/12, they're going to have a ton of premieres also. The Mandalorian, which is the Jon Favreau Star Wars series that everybody's been talking about. They revealed their first trailer of that. It looks phenomenal. The first episode drops on November 12th, which is when Disney Plus starts. So you'll get the first day of Disney Plus, you're going to get the first episode of The Mandalorian. Since it's also right smack dab in the holiday season, it's a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, about a month and a half before Christmas. Disney's dropping 2 family-oriented films. The first is the live-action version of Lady and the Tramp. They've already had success with their live-action versions of Aladdin and The Lion King this week, or this year. Mulan is coming out next year. We saw the teaser for that. Little Mermaid is already in the pipeline. Atlantis should be coming soon. Treasure Planet. What's the other one? Another one that they've done. Talk of a Hunchback of Notre Dame one. Black Cauldron's getting a live-action reboot. All this stuff is coming through now. So why not do a live-action version of The Lady and the Tramp? But instead of releasing it in theaters, hey, it could be a nice big premiere event on your Disney Plus station. So the live-action version of Lady and the Tramp will start streaming on November 12th. Again, you don't have to watch it on just November 12th and then say, oh, it's all gone. It'll be in the program forever. So you can watch it whenever you want. But it will be out the first day Disney Plus is. It looks cute. It's got these look more like real dogs and not the computer generated animals you see in Lion King and a Jungle Book, because dogs you can pretty much train to do stuff. They might use the computers to move their mouths because they have actors doing the voices of them, but they look like they're real dogs. So it looks kind of cute. And the one I'm excited about, I watched this trailer over and over again for a variety of reasons. This is the Disney Christmas movie starring Anna Kendrick, who I absolutely adore also. Anna Kendrick will be playing the title role. The movie is called Noelle. My daughter's name is Noelle. They made a movie called Noelle, and it's about Noelle Claus, which is the daughter of Santa Claus. And Anna Kendrick plays Noelle, and we learn in the trailer that Santa has retired, and now it's up to her older brother to take over as Santa, but he kind of doesn't want to do it. Anna Kendrick's Noelle seems to be the better choice, but she can't because Santa's supposed to be male for whatever reason. So she has to help train her brother, but he just is not getting it and he doesn't really want to do it. So she just says, look, you just need a break, take a break for a weekend, come back, and we'll work on it again. And then he doesn't come back. So now they go to the possibility that we need to go to your other brother, your younger brother, who is in the tech department and does not want to be Santa Claus. He wants to be working in his tech department, which he loves. But since he's male, again, he's obviously the next one in row. So Noelle decides that in order to help her brother who wants to stay in the tech group, she's got to find her errant brother and bring him back and get him to become Santa Claus. So she goes on a trip with her mother, maid, whatever, played by Shirley MacLaine, and they go on search of her brother, and they find him like in the desert or something like that, where he's running a yoga company. So it's cute. It looks adorable. She has a flying baby reindeer as her companion, and you got Shirley MacLaine doing a fantastic job chewing the scenery as well. She looks like she's having a great time doing it. And Anna Kendrick, you gotta love. I'm so sick of this stuff. You gotta love Anna Kendrick. What is all this about? Okay, stupid fantasy football. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. That's going to be dropping on November 12th as well. So, and I showed Noelle the trailer, and she loved it as well. So that'd be cute. It's a great trailer. It's got one of my favorite Christmas songs in it by Kelly Clarkson, and it looks really funny and family oriented. So a good Christmas movie to watch, a good movie to watch after Thanksgiving. And it's going to be out, obviously, a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, since Thanksgiving, unfortunately, is late this year. So, all right. So now it's time. I guess we'll continue on with our. Oh, that's the other thing I want to. D23 also announced that Kit Harington of Game of Thrones fame will be reteaming with his brother from Game of Thrones, who's already been cast in Eternals as Icarus. So Kit Harington is going to be cast in the Eternals as Dane Whitman, the Black Knight, which is huge because the Black Knight is actually a fairly famous Marvel hero who at one time led the Avengers. It's a really cool character, and it's, I guess, regular casting because he's used to that kind of stuff. So whatever. So maybe I'll do some other stuff before I do my review, because I've had a couple of long stuff about this. Let's see some of this other stuff as well. Mountain Dew Voodoo is coming just in time for Halloween. It's a clear, looks like a clear Mountain Dew. And the people who've tried it can't quantify what the flavor is, so they don't know exactly, what kind of flavor it is. But it's called Mountain Dew Voodoo, so that'll be out in time for Halloween. I also tried. Finally, I found some at Target of all places a couple weeks ago, and I finally got around to trying it this week. Is Liberty Brew, the one that's supposed to have 50 flavors of Mountain Dew in it? It's not my favorite. I think of patriotic summer ones, I think red, white, and dew is better and better tasting. This one, it just seems like it's too busy, and it has like a grape cherry sort of flavor to it. That's what I get out of it. There might be some other, as I said, other flavors. It's supposed to have 50 flavors in it, but I don't know what all those flavors would be. But in the end, when you drink it, it sort of tastes like a combination of a grape cherry flavored Mountain Dew. So I guess it's okay. A bear was videotaped using, I guess, one of the doorbell cams, stealing a Amazon box from the porch of someone's house. And in the box, it had a delivery of dog food. So the bear knew it was, or smelled the dog food or whatever, grabbed it and stole it and ate it. So he had food. Speaking of doorbells, there are now doorbells for dogs. So, you have like your cat doors and you have dog doors. But in this case, if you don't want to put a cat door or a dog door in your door, and you just want to, when your pet is ready to come in, you have a little doorbell set for them. They come up, they press their nose against their head or whatever, or their paw, and it rings the doorbell. It's like, oh, the dog wants to come in. You let them in. So doorbells for dogs. Yes, sir. The conversation going on that I actually haven't seen this, so I saw this article, but there's a conversation going apparently that the character of Wario from the Mario video games, there's a debate going on as, does Wario have nipples? And to be honest, I don't know how or why you would come up to that sort of conversation anyway. I'll tell you what, about 7 minutes at the top of the hour, I'll get to the Once Upon a Time review. I might have mentioned this before, but there is somebody created a Lego prosthetic arm. I've talked about some other prosthetic arms that have been out there before, but this is a Lego prosthetic arm. Oh, and I have a viewer. Hi, viewer. I see you. Cool. Thanks for watching. So that's out there. I talked about Netflix earlier. Well, there's a new Netflix series. I think it's Netflix, yep. Starring one of my favorite actors, Paul Rudd. He is going to be playing in a TV show for Netflix, a Netflix series called Living with Yourself. And the basic premise is that there was a scientist, whatever, took, and there goes my viewer. Oh, well, he's hanging out there for a little bit. Took everything out of, like a bunch of stuff out of Paul Rudd, like his feelings, stuff like that, and created like a clone of Paul Rudd. And now the two of them are having to live together and figure stuff out. So it's Paul Rudd. You got to love that. It's a Netflix series. That's one reason why I'm not going to be giving up on Netflix, even when I get Disney Plus. But I'm still going to take a look at that. It should be pretty good. Nightmare Before Christmas is coming up soon for your Halloween Christmas pleasure. And it's always been a big celebration anyway, as it was. So they're, since everybody loves Nightmare Before Christmas, they've released all kinds of different things. There's Funko Pops and all kinds of stuff. Now there's a version of the game Operation. The one where you have the body on the table and you have all the little slots and you have to reach in and grab like the funny bone and stuff like that. And you have these pliers and you have to reach in there. And if you touch the sides, it buzzes, which means that you failed. Well, this one has Oogie Boogie, the, I guess, worm filled bad guy from Nightmare Before Christmas on the slab, and has Jack and all them having to take stuff out of him. So if you like Nightmare Before Christmas, there is now an Operation game will be available really soon. So good on that. Speaking of toys, toy company Hasbro, I don't know if they're the ones who do Operation, but anyway, toy company Hasbro has bought, of all things, Death Row Records. So now a toy company owns one of the most successful musical production companies of all time. And it just seemed like kind of an odd sort of thing to buy, but toys and rap and stuff like that. So I don't know. But still, it's cool. Good for them. That's pretty cool on that. Doctors find a brown recluse spider in a woman's ear. So the woman was complaining of an earache and didn't quite know what was going on. So she went to the doctor because it was getting really, really painful. And the doctors looked in and said, oh, shit, and pulled out a brown recluse spider that had gotten into her ear. That's just, ugh. Also, speaking of weird, creepy kind of shit, as I said earlier in the show, I'm a cryptozoologist person. I talked a little bit about Bigfoot already. Now we're going to talk about lake monsters. Now, the most famous lake monster, obviously, is Loch Ness. And recently, there was a new sighting that made the news, I guess, over in England. I didn't really hear much about it until I saw it on Facebook. There was a sighting of an unidentified object swimming really fast in Loch Ness. Obviously, y'all think it's the Loch Ness Monster, which it probably is. So we know it's still there. So someone saw something that they could not recognize swimming in Loch Ness. Now, the really weird thing is Loch Ness is over in Scotland. Here in America, we have a lake monster by the name of Champ. It's in Lake Champlain, which is in upstate New York. And the weird thing is, and this I discovered when they used to do sightings on Fox TV back in the late 90s. I think maybe mid-90s, actually. They remember doing it in college also. They once told a story that if you look on a map that has longitude and latitude lines, and I can't remember, I think the ones that go around the Earth is the latitude, or is latitude that way and longitude is that way? I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, whatever the lines are that go around the Earth and not over it. The sightings of lake monsters fit within this one area between like the 47th and 48th parallel sort of type of thing. So if you take the 47, 48 across the globe, all the lake monsters that have been sighted are all in the same level. So there was Loch Ness, there's Champlain, Lake Champlain is in there. The Chesapeake Bay, believe it or not, near where I live, they've had their own monster sightings as well. Chessie, as we call her. There's some Canadian lake, I think, is within that time frame as well. And I think there's even a South Asian lake that has a lake monster is also within that frame. So that's just kind of a weird little thing that covers that. Now, that also comes into play in a book I read last year about UFOs. They called the UFO Highway. And this investigator investigated all these cattle mutilations and UFO sightings, but they were on a latitude, longitude line. They were all within the same area, and it would fit within this area where the most, the biggest stories and the most interesting stories were. So he went and investigated from all around that area. So maybe there's something to that. So Lake Champlain, up in upstate New York, they have a lake monster called Champ, and there's actually a really good picture taken back in the 80s. Can you come down, bud? You can if you want. You're all right. You okay? Are you getting bored? If you want to go on your tablet, you can. It's your birthday. Go ahead. It's fine. If mom says anything, you tell her I told you could, all right? It's his birthday. Let him go on his tablet. Anyway. That's right, the national park. Anyway, so there was a sighting at Lake Champlain this week as well. So he's still around also. Now, Lake Champlain has had one of the best pictures ever taken of a lake monster, a pretty good view of one. Not like the Loch Ness ones. There haven't really been really good ones of Loch Ness, because the one that everybody looks at, we know is fake. But there's been, this one looks like a dinosaur in the water. It's pretty cool. So there's that. So we still got that going on. All right. I'll do a sex story, then I'll get into the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Police patrolled into a notorious hookup zone. We're patrolling a notorious hookup zone, I guess, to break it up or whatever, make sure people weren't, doing illegal stuff or whatever. And all they discovered were frisky and naughty senior citizens. They had gotten out of their places and were hooking up in these hookup areas. So good for the senior citizens and everything they do about that. Also, one more story: the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus Williams, star tennis players. They are now part owners of the football team, the Miami Dolphins. So they're not like majority owners, but they still have a stake in the Dolphins. So hey, go for it. Oh, absolutely. Real quick, also, downtown Des Moines, Iowa has been recreated in stunning detail on Minecraft. It's amazing what people can do on Minecraft. I told a story a couple weeks ago about someone creating a full-scale version of Middle-earth, down to the littlest things here and there. I'll hit a few more. It's 102. It's 105. I'll give me about 3 more minutes to hit some of these smaller things. Smooth criminals roll up and steal $40 million in gold very quickly. They have some video. There's like a truck that has the gold in it. It's stopped at like a gas station or something like that. These guys roll up in their car. They jump out and they take off with the truck without any warning. It all happened so fast that they were like, what the hell just happened? So there's some pretty good ones out there, criminals out there that can do that. A Canadian archaeological team discovered a mummified dinosaur with some of its internal organs still intact and some of its skin still intact. So that's going to be quite a find for the scientific community to take a look and see how dinosaurs are, and try to figure out why and how this dinosaur became mummified. We're not exactly sure. There's a vagina museum in London is going to be opening soon, which isn't really that big of a surprise because Iceland has a penis museum, so why not a vagina museum? Well, there's going to be one opening up in London, so hey, if you want to go to a museum that's going to specialize in, taking a look at the vagina, hey, go for it. And then go to Iceland and check out the penis one. It'd be great. Giant alien face was discovered in Antarctica, similar to the face on Mars back in the 70s. A aerial view of Antarctica revealed what looked like an alien face. Now, granted, again, we know it's not an alien face. It was just the way melting snow and the way the rocks are. They just formed it into what looks like an alien face. And there's a pareidolia or something like that, some sort of mind thing where we take a look at something that's a jumble of images, and we can, and our mind is trying to fix it so that we can say, oh, it looks like that. That's what you do when you look at clouds and say, hey, that cloud looks like a dog, or that looks like a flower, or something like that. Your mind is trying to organize something that is disorganized and turn it to something that your brain can recognize. So again, that's similar to the Face on Mars also. Face on Mars was a big deal for a while because they thought, oh, they built a giant statue, giant head that can only be seen from space of their god. And then they checked back like 10 years later and the face was completely gone because the wind and the erosion and stuff like that. And so it was just like, oh, okay. Again, just like this pareidolia type of thing and lighting and stuff like that. So similar to this thing as well. A dolphin mom adopted an orphaned whale calf, again, showing animals doing stuff that we normally, don't expect them to do. So that's good on that. My girl, Sarah Michelle Gellar, will be getting a new TV show from her Ringer producers based on a novel called Other People's Houses. I don't know exactly when and where that's going to be on, but it's more SMG for me, so I'll be happy with that. Let's see, this trailer, I'll talk about that later. Two guys tried to rob a woman in Chicago, but they went after the wrong woman. She is a Gold Glove boxer, and she beat the crap out of them. So good on that. Wait a second, what is that? A neurological disorder is affecting panthers in Florida, making it hard for them to walk. So I don't know what the situation is with that, or if it's something that can be cured, or what is going on with that. So hopefully that, their vets or animal doctors can figure out what's going on with them and maybe try to help them a little bit. Also in Florida, an alligator climbs a fence in Jacksonville, Florida, and a dash cam video. So basically a car sees this alligator crossing the road. I was like, okay, I'm going to stop them cross the road. So he's got the dash cam on, must be a police officer, or just has dash cam on just in case there's an accident and they can show who's to blame for stuff like that. So he's just watching the alligator just walking across the street and then walk up the grass, and then and then there's this fence, and he's like, how the hell is this alligator gonna, get around here? And the guy's probably waiting. He's like, okay, he's not going to be able to do that. He'll come back across. I'll let him cross. Once he passes, I'll drive on. But as he's watching this and he's got the video on, the alligator climbs the fence. There's video of this. It's not doctored. It's not fake. An alligator climbed a fence. It sees him grabbing hold of the prongs and then pulling him by. He's having trouble, but he's doing it. Pulls his body over and flops back down the ground and keeps walking. It's like the daredevil moose I talked about last week who jumped off the cliff. Again, as I'm telling you, animals are amazing and they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Robert Englund, everyone knows him as Freddy Krueger. He wants to make one more Nightmare on Elm Street movie as Freddy Krueger, and then he wants to retire the character and hand it off to his personal choice of an actor by the name of Kevin Bacon. And actually, I think I kind of dig that. I think Kevin Bacon would probably be a really good Freddy Krueger. I don't know if he's even interested in doing it, but I think he would be a really, really good villain. He's played villains before, and he's been awfully creepy in those roles. So I'd like to see him maybe get another chance at it, particularly one as iconic as Englund's Freddy Krueger. So we'll see. What the hell is that? A hybrid Browns fan. Oh, that's right. So football's coming. And the big story everybody's talking about is how the Cleveland Browns, who are in the Ravens division, how they are going to have a stellar year and probably going to go to the Super Bowl and win it all because they have a good quarterback in Baker Mayfield. They picked up Odell Beckham Jr. from the Giants, who's one of the best wide receivers in football. They got another really good running back to go with their rookie, who's now no longer rookie, but their draft pick, Chubb. So they have a good rookie, good running back group, and they have good defensive group. And they did pretty good last year. I think they were 5-2 11 or something last year. So they showed improvement last year, particularly with Baker Mayfield. But they have a brand new coach, and Baker Mayfield is kind of a prima donna, as is Odell Beckham. They've never really worked that well. They haven't really worked together except for during preseason and practice, and it's a different story when you actually go up against other teams. But to be fair, on paper, they won the free agency pool, and they are going to be a much improved team. But because Cleveland has not really had a chance to feel excitement and get excited about this, I think they're going a little bit overboard on this. Yes, you've got a really good quarterback and free agents and stuff like that, but you still got to play 16 games against teams that are not as bad as you think they are, and tough teams. The Steelers are going to be a tough team. You play them twice. The Ravens, despite what everybody else seems to believe, are going to be a tough team. And I'm not a homer, but that's it also. And then we play. Let's see who we're playing. We're playing the West. So they've got to play Kansas City and Denver, who are both pretty good teams. No, they don't play the West. No, we play. No, we play the East. I'm sorry, we play New England. So they got to face New England now. Jets and Buffalo and Miami, could be all right. And then the NFC, we play, not the South. Are we playing the NFC West? We're playing the NFC West. That's what it was. We're playing Arizona and Los Angeles Rams, who are really good. So there's going to be a lot of teams that the Browns are going to be playing that are going to be tough. Now, they're going to win some games. I think they are. But do I think they're going to go 13-3 or 14-2 or 16-0 or any of that? No, I don't think so. Could they potentially go 10-6 and tie with the Ravens? Absolutely, they could. I think the Ravens are going to go 10-6 also. I think the Steelers are going to go 9-7. Personally, they're not as good as they used to be, but they're still going to be up there. It's going to be between those three teams, and depending on how the rest of the league fares out, we might get the division leader and the two wild cards from our division. It's happened before. It could happen again. So I think you need to hype. And plus, you're also 1 or 2 injuries away from going back to being a mediocre team. If something happens to Baker, if something happens to Odell, or happens to your running backs, you're toast, really. You don't really have depth at those positions. The running back, you do a little bit. But then it becomes harder for the running back to get free, because now instead of 2 good ones, you got 1, so you're going to double team that guy and hope the other guy does stuff. But meanwhile, because the Browns fans are so excited about this, and we'll give them this chance to be excited about, but they're getting to be a little obnoxious now. This guy absolutely just put the stake in the Browns' chances to win the Super Bowl, because he got a tattoo that says Super Bowl champs with the Lombardi Trophy and this year's Super Bowl. That just basically just went, they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl this year, because why would you do that? It's like talking about a no-hitter in baseball, where this pitcher's throwing a no-hitter, he's on the verge of hitting a no-hitter, and then the next batter comes up and he hits a base hit and breaks up the no-hitter. Happens all the time. So we'll find out what happens, but that guy basically just put the stake into the Super Bowl chances of the Browns. So let's talk a little bit about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is going to be spoiler, so if you don't want to be spoiled, don't listen anymore. The film is been sitting in my brain for the last 24 hours, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And I have not a love-hate relationship with Quentin. I like some of Quentin's stuff, but I don't like a lot of his stuff. I think Pulp Fiction is way overrated. Jackie Brown is way underrated. I think more people should see Jackie Brown, but it hardly ever gets talked about. I think Kill Bill movies were fantastic. Most people talk about how good they are. And I'm not a big fan of his other ones. Not a big fan of Inglourious Basterds. Not a big fan of Django. I'm not a big fan of The Hateful Eight. Reservoir Dogs is okay also. I liked his script for True Romance, and I thought Tony Scott did a good job of directing it. And I liked his script for From Dusk Till Dawn also. And I thought Robert Rodriguez did a good job of directing that as well. I haven't seen his Death Proof, so I couldn't tell you about that. But, it's Quentin, though. But this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is something completely different. And you get a little bit of that Tarantino-esque-ness at the end, with some of the ultra violence that happens at the end. And then, of course, the dialogue is kind of snappy a little bit in there. The F word is thrown out all over the place in the movie. But watching the film, it kind of made you forget Quentin was doing it. Because, yeah, there's little bits and pieces like, oh, yeah, that's a Quentin thing. Like there's a couple sequences where some of the actresses have their feet up on, one has feet up on the dashboard. So you see the feet pretty clearly. And then you have another person who puts their feet up in a movie theater and stuff like that. We know Quentin has a foot fetish. So we see that as well. And then, of course, the F word, stuff like that. But this movie is basically what a lot of people are saying is it seems like a Hollywood fairy tale. It is a love note to Hollywood and is also a fairy tale considering what happens at the end. It is Quentin trying to rewrite cinematic history, or not cinematic history, true crime history by what he does at the end so that it has a happy ending and not a crappy ending, which is what actually happened in real life. So let me give you just the general basis. You probably know the basis of the film, but I'm just going to say, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, check out the trailer. It's got the Neil Diamond song that I played earlier, Straight Shooter song I played last week on the show. It's got those on there. Quentin's music also, that's another thing. The film is filled with not weird, but music from 1969 that I've never heard of before, but it's typical stuff and it's all over the place. Also, the Hollywood of 1969 is lovingly recreated in the film to the cars, the buildings, the signs, the signage, the stuff like that, the music. They actually do commercials on the radio or from 1969 that you expect because the radio's on all the time. So you hear these commercials all the time and the music all the time. They watch TV, the TV shows and commercials and news things are definitely 1969 style type of things. And you also get just it's a loving look at the world of filmmaking. And that's why I absolutely love this film. And I honestly, I will say, this is probably Quentin's best film, to be honest. Again, as I said, I don't like Pulp Fiction. I mean, I like it, but I think it's highly overrated. This film, I think, is Quentin's absolutely best film he's ever made. He's still got one more left in the tank. So we'll see if that can overdo it. But to me, and obviously I'm just coming from a point where I haven't seen a lot of his stuff, but from the ones that I've seen and the stuff that I've heard talked about, this one is the best of his stuff because I absolutely adored it. And so the basic premise is 69. It's like March 1969, and we follow Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who is phenomenal. I love Leo. Whatever you might think about Leo, he's grown into a really fantastic actor. Picks his projects really well and does a fantastic job in this movie. Again, playing sort of a different character than he usually does. So Rick Dalton is a former huge 1950s TV star, was in a TV show called Bounty Law that went many seasons and made him a lot of money. And he's made some other periodic movies here and there. Another one that he's fairly famous for is a World War II movie where he uses a flamethrower to kill Nazis, and I think it's like the 14 Fists of something or other. So it was kind of one of these really uber violent sort of World War II type of films. And he looks like he had a blast making it, stuff like that. And you see bits and pieces from his TV show, Bounty Law, and from this film as well. You also get a really interesting, and this is great because another thing that shows that this is a Quentin movie is that he shows flashbacks and dreams and stuff like that, where you actually get a sequence where Leonardo DiCaprio is telling the story about how he lost out on the role of the Great Escape to Steve McQueen. And while he's telling the story to the actor that he's playing opposite of in this pilot, which I'll tell you about in a few minutes, he's telling the story. It flashes back to actual footage of The Great Escape, but instead of Steve McQueen's character, you have Leonardo DiCaprio's Rick Dalton character saying the exact same lines as Steve McQueen does and how it would react. But it's filmed so perfectly, and it's spliced in there like a Forrest Gump style splice that it looks like that he actually filmed The Great Escape Leonardo DiCaprio did, which was years before he was even born. So that's a fantastic sequence as well. So Rick Dalton, so he's a fairly famous actor who's now sort of on, to be honest, the film basically focuses on him. He's basically, I don't know how old he's supposed to be in the movie, probably in his 40s. He's in a midlife crisis right now because when you get to be older in Hollywood, and it's a sign about that too, your career starts going downhill. So now he's not really getting the roles that he wants. And he is instead having to keep up appearances and keep his career going. He has to accept roles as the bad guy opposite new younger actors who are trying to make a name for themselves in TV pilots and movies like that. So in the 1950s, Rick Dalton was considered one of the toughest guys, like a John Wayne type, because of his role in Bounty Law. So now what filmmakers want to do is they want to prove that that their new guy is, if he can beat up the tough guy Rick Dalton, because you automatically, he's not playing Rick Dalton, he's playing a character, but he's like, that's Rick Dalton. That this new kid is tougher than Rick Dalton was, so you want to follow this people. So, but he's got to take it because he's not getting the career he wants. He's not getting the roles he wants. So he's actually going into a meeting with a new agent, named Mr. Schwartz, not Schwartz, as he makes a mistake, Mr. Schwartz, played by Al Pacino, who is, it's a co-starring role. He's very minimal lines in it, but he has this one big scene with DiCaprio, and it's Pacino at his best. He's not overdoing it, and it's like, it shows how Pacino, how good of an actor he really is. So you got that in there. So you have that in there. So they have a sequence talking about where Pacino watches like a movie marathon. So Dalton's done some Western movies and they've been successful, and he's done the Western TV show, and he's done this World War II movie and stuff like that. And Schwartz likes them and wants to sign him to spaghetti Westerns. Now, in Rick Dalton's eyes, spaghetti Westerns are like the bottom of the barrel, and he really doesn't want to do them. So he sort of leaves it. He doesn't tell Schwartz that, but you can tell that he's not the biggest fan of them, and that he believes that that's where actors go when they die. So he leaves it up in the air, because we learn later on that Schwartz is still looking out for his interests. So he's still trying to find him stuff. Meanwhile, you have Cliff Booth. Now, Cliff Booth is the other main character in the film, played by Brad Pitt. And Cliff Booth is Rick Dalton's longtime best friend, his longtime stunt person, and is now his valet repairman guy. Because Rick, unfortunately, is semi-alcoholic due to his career sort of going downhill. He crashed his own car in a drunk driving incident, and he has been ordered never to drive again due to his drunk driving arrest. So now he pays Cliff now to be his valet, to take him to tryouts and pilots that he's filming and stuff like that, and take him around to the store and bars and restaurants and stuff like that. And also, Cliff goes and he does work around his mansion, puts, like, there's a scene where he has to put a TV antenna back on and cleans the pool and does stuff like that. Cliff Booth lives in a trailer behind a drive-in movie theater with his dog. Awesome pit bull, fantastic. Such a great relationship between him and Cliff. And Cliff doesn't seem to mind, because Rick Dalton is his best friend, and Cliff has his own issues he's dealing with. He's sort of been blackballed in Hollywood as well. He's hooked up with Rick's, and Rick is championing him. So whenever Rick does a TV show, pilot, or a movie, he pretty much says, I got to have Cliff be my guy, be my stunt person. And most people will be hesitantly will allow him to there, because Cliff Booth has been rumored to have killed his wife. The case has never been solved, and he was never arrested or indicted, I should say, never indicted for the murder of his wife, but everybody believes he did it. And that's another thing about Quentin. As I said, he uses these little flashbacks in there. We see a flashback to why people believe that, and there was a scene where he and his wife are on this boat, and the wife is just the biggest shrewish woman, always bringing him down and calling him an idiot and stuff like that. And it doesn't really say in the film if Cliff actually killed his wife, but I think Quentin was basically saying can you blame him because this person is a bitch, But it never really, we never really know for sure if he did or not. It's not really out there if he did or not. Regardless, so he does that, and plus, as I said, he's been blackballed, because of that potential that he killed somebody. There was a episode of the Green Hornet that Rick Dalton was going to do, where he's going to play one of the bad guys. Again, as I'm telling you, that's all you can get right now. And the stunt coordinator, played by Kurt Russell, wanted somebody else to be a stunt person because of Cliff's history. But Rick was able to convince him to do it, so Kurt Russell allows him to come on. Now, Kurt Russell's wife is Zoe Bell, who is a stunt coordinator also, and she doesn't like Cliff at all because of his potential for murdering his wife. So there's a scene that we flash back to why Cliff is not going to be able to be the stunt person for the pilot that Rick's getting ready to film, called Lancer. The main reason why is because, again, we have a flashback, is because when they were filming the Green Hornet, the stunt people were all sort of hanging out off to the side waiting for the show to go on. And Bruce Lee was one of the characters in the Green Hornet, and he's talking to the stunt people, giving himself, saying how tough he is and stuff like that, and that nobody here could take him, stuff like that. And Cliff takes exception to that, so they set up a fight. Two knockdowns is the winner. So the first thing is Bruce Lee comes up and kicks Cliff down to the ground. And Cliff wasn't ready for it, but now he knows it. So then the second time, Cliff is able to fight him a little bit, grabs Bruce and flings him against the car, causing a huge dent in the car. And they get up and then they start fighting again. And before they can tell who's going to win, Zoe Bell's character comes out and screams what the hell's going on. And she already hates Cliff Booth, and the fact that he's fighting with one of the main stars of the show and could cause problems for him is causing her to freak out. And also the fact that the car that he threw Bruce Lee into that has a dent in now is her car. And so she orders Kurt Russell to fire Cliff, and he does. So that stunt coordinating team is the one doing the stunts for Lancer. So that's why they are no longer allowing Cliff to do the stunts. So the main portion of the film is, so after he talks to Mr. Schwartz and he does the pilot, and a lot of the film takes place during the filming of the pilot. He meets the lead actor of the pilot. I can't remember the actor's name, the character he's playing, but Timmy Oliphant plays him. And he's the one that he tells a story about the Great Escape to. But, it shows there's a whole sequence where they're filming a whole scene of from the Lancer pilot as Rick Dalton playing the bad guy. And he's having trouble with his lines because he drank a lot the night before. And he remembers a lot of his lines, but he's forgetting a lot of them too. So he's making himself look like an embarrassment in front of the director who asked for him directly, and also these new actors, stuff like that. So he also has when they're on break, he has a conversation with a young actress who's about 8 years old, 10 years old, whatever, who's playing the daughter of one of the characters. And they have a really cute conversation in the middle of the film, which is really good. So then after Rick has a terrible day of filming, goes back to his trailer and just sort of has a nervous breakdown. And eventually says, I got to do this right. So he goes back out and does a phenomenal job in the next scene that he has to do. And everybody loves it. The little girl says, "I believed in you, best acting I've ever seen." So it made him feel good. So you had that. So then the other thing is Rick lives in a really nice mansion on the notorious road called Cello Drive. Now, for those who know their true crime, Cello Drive is one of the houses on Cello Drive was the crime scene where Sharon Tate was murdered by Charles Manson's cult. Charles Manson ordered the killing, but didn't perform the killing themselves. But his cult, in our history, his cult went to that house and murdered Sharon Tate, who was 8 months pregnant, Jay Sebring, an heiress to the Folger Foundation. So killed like 5 people. And that was in the true story. So that happened in August of '69. So this is March. So we find out, that Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate, who are married, have moved into the house next door to Rick's. So Rick sees them and knows them. So we know, okay, there's going to be some sort of connection to the Charles Manson thing. Sharon Tate becomes kind of the third character in this story, even though her story is one of the problems I had with the movie. Her story was cut drastically, played by the the luminous, gorgeous Margot Robbie doing a fantastic job of doing Sharon Tate. And she has very few scenes. She's got her big scene is when she goes to a movie theater that is playing her movie that she's in, is able to talk her way into the movie theater for free and sits in there and just listens to the reaction of the crowd to her character in an actual movie that Sharon Tate did film called The Wrecking Crew with Dean Martin. So we watch that on the film, and we see Sharon Tate watching herself and listening and reacting to the audience, and she's happy, excited because she's in a really good spot. She's married to Roman Polanski, who at this point is one of the hottest directors in Hollywood. She's got a gorgeous house. She's got great friends. She's living the life. They go to Playboy houses, parties at the Playboy Mansion where Steve McQueen and Mama Cass are hanging out, and they're dancing and singing and having a great time and drinking and just living the life, and they're loving it. As I said, that's the problem. One of the problems I had with the movie was the fact that Sharon's story was so minor in it. As I said, she only has the one big scene, is the scene where she goes and talks her way into the movie theater to see her film. And then there's the extended dance sequence at the Playboy Mansion, but it's just her dancing. So you get to see Margot Robbie dancing, which is wonderful. Anyway, and there's a few bits and pieces here and there that she's in, but she definitely does not have as big of a story as Rick and Cliff do. So, you have all these three stories converging at one time. So Cliff's story is even more interesting. So Cliff's story connects to Sharon. So while Rick is doing his work, and since Cliff can't do the stunt stuff for him on Lancer, Cliff is just wandering around Los Angeles on his own till Rick is ready to get picked up. So he meets a young girl who catches his eye, who wants a ride. And so he's like, come on in, I'll give you a ride. And she's a bubbly, cute little, looks like a 16, 17-year-old girl. And he's attracted to her, but he also knows that she's probably too young for him, but still, just be a nice guy. I'll take you to where you need to go. She says she wants to go to Spahn Ranch. And Cliff knows exactly where that is because Spahn Ranch is where they filmed lots of Westerns. They filmed a lot of Bounty Law was filmed on the property that was owned by Mr. Spahn. And so he was, so he's been out there before. And so it's like, oh, you live out there now? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, well, I know where exactly where it is. So he takes her out there, and she wants him to meet her family, led by Charles Manson, because Charles Manson's family at that time was living on Spahn Ranch. Cliff, meanwhile, is a little suspicious because he knows this girl is kind of a hippie sort of chick, and he is afraid that maybe they're taking advantage of Mr. Spahn because he's an old man now. So he wants to just go out there basically to check on it. And that's where we get to one of the creepiest scenes in the whole movie, where Cliff drives her out to Spahn Ranch. And Spahn Ranch is like in this desolate area of California, the desert and stuff like that. And there's winds and tumbleweeds, and then lots of houses and stuff like that around there because it's a ranch and has all this stuff. And then all of these Manson followers are living out there. A lot of them are younger women, but there's some men in there, hippie types, that type of thing. And they are all kind of creepily staring at him, and he is able to force his way into seeing Mr. Spahn. They don't want him to see Mr. Spahn, but he sort of is able to force his way in to seeing Mr. Spahn, including Cliff has a confrontation with Squeaky Fromm, who was one of the more notorious members of the Manson family, is played by Dakota Fanning in this movie. And so they have this, as I said, it's one of the creepiest, bizarrest, not bizarre because it's more creepy because it actually happened. I mean, they lived on this ranch. And so Cliff goes to check on Mr. Spahn, who's played by Bruce Dern. And Mr. Spahn doesn't remember him from 8 years ago when he was on there filming on their property. And he just wants to make sure that they're not taking advantage of him, but he keeps saying that's fine, everything's fine, but he doesn't trust it. So he pretty much makes himself non persona grata, including the girl that really liked him and brought him there. She said, "You're embarrassing me," and stuff like that. And he's like, "Well, sorry." And he discovers that his car has a flat tire. They had slashed his tires. So he finds the guy that did it and beats the living crap out of him and forces him to replace the tire. And then the other girl says he's beating the crap out of this guy. They want to go find one of the other tough guys, Tex, who's actually another of Manson's notorious guys who end up being involved in the killing of Sharon Tate to find him. He's out. One of the things they do to make money is they take tourists out on a tour of the desert, horseback ride tour. So she goes to find him and bring Tex back to beat up Cliff. By the time he gets back, Cliff is gone. And so that's the end of the story there. So then it flashes to 6 months later. And we find out via narration that during that 6-month period from March to August, Cliff decided to take the job over in Italy to make spaghetti westerns. And he made 3 of them. And Cliff came with him to be a stuntman. And he also met an actress out there who he fell in love with, and they end up getting married. So by the time they finish their time out there, they come back to America. And now Rick has 3 potentially successful roles coming up. His career is still blossoming a little bit, even though it's sort of flatlining a little bit, but he's making some money, made some more films, stuff like that. But now that he's married, he can't have Cliff sort of hanging around. So he decides to say, I got to cut you loose. I can't afford you anymore. And Cliff and him, they have it's a kind, easy cut and a dissolution of their partnership. I mean, they'll still be friends, but he's not going to be able to work for him anymore. And so, and then Rick is going to have to move to a smaller place because he can't afford the big mansion. But they say, we're going to have one last big night together. We're going to go out drinking, and then we're going to hang out back here at the house and just have more drinking and stuff like that. Just have fun. So while that's happening, it happens to be the day that Sharon Tate is going to be murdered. So while they get totally trashed, and the last bit of the movie follows the last day leading up to the Tate murders and what's been going on up to that point, and what Rick and Cliff are doing, and what Sharon's doing, and what the Manson people are doing, stuff like that. You follow them all up there. And then eventually what happens is Cliff had bought a acid-dipped cigarette from some girl on a corner, and he was going to use it for a special occasion. So he lights it up. So it's a cigarette dipped in acid. So he's smoking a cigarette, but is also tripping on acid. So now he's sort of freaking out a little bit, and he's walking his dog at night. Just take a quick trip. So as he's walking his dog, Manson's crew comes up, Squeaky, Tex, and a few other people. They come up, and their plan is to go after Sharon Tate. And here's where Quentin makes this change. Now, remember, in Glorious Bastards, he changed history so that Hitler and a lot of his Nazi people were killed in a movie theater fire earlier than expected, ending the war quicker. He follows that sort of similar thing here, where they decide that, while they're parking and they're getting ready to decide how they're going to go up and kill Sharon Tate, they're in this crappy taxi cab that's loud and rumbling, and that disturbs Leonardo DiCaprio, or rather Rick, because it's like midnight. So he comes out and starts shouting at him. He's already drunk, as they say, "You damn hippies, get out of this. Is private property. Your loud ass car. I'm going to call the cops if you don't get your shit out of here," and stuff like that, and forces them out. So they drive away. So then when they get to the bottom of Cello Drive, away from everything, they decide, we're going to new target now. We're going to go after Rick Dalton. And so, because they recognize him from the TV shows. So they end up, instead of going to Sharon Tate, they go and they're going to invade Rick's house. Now, meanwhile, while they're discussing plans, Cliff comes back with his dog, and he's now in the house tripping, and he's playing music, and he's just drinking and stuff like that. And so Manson's crew comes back, and they keep their car down there, and they walk up instead of bringing the car back up and disturbing the peace again. So they walk up the road. Instead of going to Sharon Tate's house, they go to Dalton's house, and they enter Dalton's house. Dalton, meanwhile, is out in the swimming pool with headphones on, drinking, just sort of floating around his swimming pool, so he can't hear anything. His wife is asleep in bed. And as I said, Cliff is listening to music loudly when he sees the Manson people come in and invade the house. And this is where the movie gets to be the Tarantino-esque violence. So it comes out, and then he recognizes them from Spahn Ranch, and they hold a gun on him, and they threaten. And then Rick's wife comes out, and they hold her by knife, that they're going to cut her throat. And meanwhile, as I said, Cliff's tripping on acid, and he doesn't know if it's true or not, but he believes it's true. So he makes the click, click noise, and his dog, Brandy, attacks Tex, who has a helmet gun, grabs his balls, tears his balls off, and just ends up like shredding him, biting him all up. And so they're freaking out the other people. Dalton's wife beats the shit out of Squeaky, I think is once held a knife to her throat, and then runs into her bedroom and locks the door. And then after Tex is down, Squeaky comes after him, stabs Cliff with a knife, and then the dog attacks this chick. And then while the dog's attacking the other chick, Cliff grabs one of the other chicks and beats the shit out of her, smashes her head against this fireplace on the floor, just keep beating the shit so that she's just like totally, and that's where the hyperviolence is, crushing her head in and brains and stuff like that. And so eventually the woman gets away from the dog and she runs out to the pool and sees Dalton in the swimming pool. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He finally notices this woman screaming at him in pain, all bloody, coming into the swimming pool after him. So he gets out while she is sort of out of it into the pool, gets out, goes to his closet where he kept the flamethrower that he had from that one movie, came out and torches this one. So all three of the Manson family people who came to attack them are now dead. Cliff has a knife in him, but it's not a serious thing. So the police get called and the ambulance comes and they take Cliff away to the hospital, and his wife, Rick's wife, takes Xanax or whatever and is passed out. And so Rick's kind of all by himself and telling the story about what he saw and what he heard and what he learned from Cliff and everybody, and told them the story. And they take the dead bodies out. And so while he's out watching Cliff go away, Jay Sebring, who was supposed to be killed that day with Sharon Tate, whatever, is drawn to the sound of the fire, the ambulance and all that stuff, and also the screaming and stuff that had been happening at Cliff's house, or Rick's house. Comes down and says, "Hey man, what's going on?" And they have a conversation. It's like, "You're Rick Dalton, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Yeah, Jay Sebring." It's like, "Yeah. Are you okay? Is your family okay?" And stuff like that. And he tells them the story, and he's like, "Man, that's crazy. Do you want to hang out with us?" Because he said, "My wife is passed out asleep, and my best friend is going to the hospital, and I want to see him tomorrow." He's like, "Hey, you want to just sort of chill out with us? We're having a party up here." And then he hears Sharon's voice say, "Rick Dalton, do you want to come up? Are you okay?" And he tells her what's going on, and she invites him up to the house. So Rick walks up with Jay Sebring to the house where Sharon and Folger and everybody who was supposed to die due to the Manson people are still alive, and they have a big party, and they are embracing Rick into their friendship, because Rick has said earlier in the film, "Wouldn't it be great if, I became friends with them, and Roman Polanski cast me in his next film and I'll become a big star again." So you kind of get that inkling that, he's going to become friends with Sharon and Jay and all of them. And then when Roman comes back from his holiday, Sharon will introduce Rick to Roman, and Roman might say, "Hey, you know what? I could use you for my new film." And he might, use him. And then you also have Roman's happy ending, because, after what happened with Sharon, he sort of lost his mind a little bit and ended up having statutory rape case where he ran away to Poland and has been over there forever and can't come back to America without being arrested. So now he doesn't have to worry about that. Sharon is going to give birth to their child, and he's going to be, a dad, and everything's going to be great. So again, nice little happy ending. Apparently, I missed this. I didn't know they were going to do this. They did a end credit sequence where Rick is doing a cigarette commercial with Quentin in the background yelling at him as a director. I'll have to find that again when I get the movie, because I will be buying the movie. Check it out. So that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Fantastic movie. Absolutely. Everybody should definitely go see it. Check it out. I loved it. And you should go see it. I mean, you probably can't see it now because I lucked out and I was like only a few people in the theater when I saw it yesterday, because it's on its way out. It was in the smallest theater because it's been out since July. So now it's starting to it's been out for about a month. So it's starting to work its way out of cinemas and stuff like that. So it's not going to be in cinemas that much longer. And then it'll be out on digital and Blu-ray probably by October, November. So if you don't see it in the movie theater now, definitely check it out when it comes out. And also, don't be surprised if it gets some nominations for the Academy Awards. I think it deserves at least Best Picture. I think Quentin deserves Best Director. It's hard to choose between DiCaprio and Pitt who should get the Best Actor award, but one of them should. Granted, it'd be great if Margot Robbie got maybe a nomination for a supporting actress, but again, her role is so minuscule in the film that it's almost not worth it. But if she gets a nomination, more power to her, and hope she wins. But I think, I don't think she would really win because her role is so small in it. Though, to be fair, we had a supporting actress winner who was only in the film for 10 minutes. So Sharon's Margot Robbie's character is in it longer than 10 minutes, but still. There's only really one big scene that she works on. So we'll see. So absolutely, definitely worth it. Some of the movie trailers I saw while in the movie theater, which you can get online also, is Midway, which is about the Midway World War II attack, invasion sort of thing that happened after Pearl Harbor. It's directed by Roland Emmerich, who directed Independence Day. Looks pretty interesting. Trying to remember if I could recognize any of the actors in it. There were probably some people I recognized, but I couldn't tell you who they were. But it's got the Roland Emmerich style sort of action to it, lots of flying and CGI and explosions and World War II stuff. So that could be pretty cool. Ed Norton's second directorial film. He directed a movie about 15 years ago, and now he's finally directing his other one. It's called Motherless Brooklyn, I think that's what it's called. And he plays a character that sort of has an autism or some sort of mental disorder during the 1930s with the mafia and stuff like that. And he works with a detective played by someone famous. Oh, Bruce Willis, who ends up getting killed. And so he, in his mental state, kind of knows what's going on. And Alec Baldwin is the mobster guy who's the bad guy. And it looks interesting. It looks sort of like Oscar bait sort of stuff. It looks kind of interesting. It's as I said, a mafia type of film. So we'll see what's going on with that. Competitive eater Joey Chestnut breaks his own chicken wing eating record in Baltimore. He was in town at the Hooters and he broke his own chicken wing eating record there. There's so much smoke coming off of the Amazon fires that it turned day to night in one of the nearby cities, which is a shame. There's Pokemon button-up shirts. So if you want to go to the office and you want to show your Pokemon pride, but you don't want to be too outlandish, you can get these button-up shirts that have very subtle Pokemon on it, and you can show your love of Pokemon like that. Pokemon Go Insanity happened this week as well as all the other stuff that's been going on. The water event is going on right now. And so after the water event, we discovered that the Jirachi challenge has came up. Jirachi is a mythical Pokemon. You're going to have to go do a bunch of things to get it there. It's going to take some time because you've got to do spin a Pokestop for 7 straight days. And you got to, throw 3 excellent curveballs and you got to do all this stuff. So it's going to take a while to get to Jirachi. So once you get there, you'll be able to catch this mythical Pokemon. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But the big thing is starting in September is going to be the Ultra Rewards. I talked a little bit about this last week, but now we got an idea of what's going on with the Ultra Rewards. We're going to get, in the first week, we're going to get unknowns hatching in eggs, which is amazing because we don't have unknowns around here. You're also going to get more legendary beasts out into the raids, stuff like that. Then you're going to have the regionals come out and get hatched from eggs also, and there'll be shinies involved with that, so you'll be able to get shiny regionals and also fix up any regionals you didn't get. And then the big thing is in the third week will be Unova, which is Gen 5 is going to be released. We don't know if it's going to be a few or all of them or whatever, so you're going to have Gen 5 getting released soon too. So quite a lot of stuff happening in Pokemon. If you haven't been following Pokemon in a while, I highly recommend you should. As I said before, Noah's birthday, 10th birthday is today, literally today. As I said, Dawn and Noel just got home from selling popcorn. We're going to go to IHOP for dinner, and he can open his presents soon. His Nana and Pop are going to be here, join us for dinner. We went to a place called Urban Air or something like that. It's a place that, as I said, had trampolines and dodgeball and stuff like that. Noel rolled in the boomstick thing, which was there's a little platform and you have the big thing and you would hit each other with it and then they would fall into it and stuff like that. And there's a ninja course and stuff like that. So kind of good. So it was a good day. A newly discovered metallic blue tarantula is big enough to hug a donut. So people who hate spiders now have something else to fear. Metallic blue spiders now. You like camping? You ever thought about camping on the river? Well, now you can with a floaty tent. It's a tent that floats on water, so you can get in the tent and you can sleep and hang out on a tent while it floats down the river. That's not a bad idea, is it? Yeah, it actually is. Another Florida man surprised a different alligator this time when an alligator was swimming towards his car on a flooded street. So they got a huge rainstorm, the roads are flooded, and he's out in the car and he stopped and he sees this alligator just happens to be swimming towards him in the flooded street. So only in Florida, I guess. Crazy, crazy. Matrix 4 has been announced with Keanu Reeves starring. The Wachowskis coming back. I'm not sure if I'm that excited about it. The fact that Keanu's coming back is interesting and the Wachowskis are coming back, but I don't know how you're going to update it for the 20s, the roaring 20s that are coming, because this movie won't be out probably till 2022, 2023 at earliest probably. So we'll see. Another trailer starring the aforementioned Margot Robbie is called Bombshell. It's directed by Jay Roach, who did the Austin Powers movies. But this one is a more recent movie about the Rupert Murdoch sex scandal where he was accused of sexually harassing women, and it took 3 women to bring him down. The 3 women are going to be played by Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie. So the first trailer for that came out. I'm not sure if that's coming out on Netflix or if that's going to be on Amazon or if it's going to be out in theaters. I haven't really heard much about it being out in theaters, but we'll see. But it's got a good casting. John Lithgow is Rupert Murdoch in that, so he's going to play like the bad guy. So you've got some good actors and actresses in it. Australia, and that's the funny thing is, Nicole Kidman and Margot Robbie are both Australian, and Charlize Theron is South African, so that's kind of interesting on that. But speaking of Australia, as you know now, they're getting ready to enter their spring, so they're in the midst of their fall or their winter right now. So winter's ending close soon for them. When it's fall up here, it's going to be spring down there. But they've gone through their winter during our summer, and Australia had a massive snowstorm, and there are videos of kangaroos actually hopping in the snow, which has never really been seen before. Now, where is that? I can't remember where. Oh, I'll find it eventually. But so there's video of kangaroos hopping in the snow in Australia. So that's kind of a cool thing to see. You don't really see that every day. A raccoon has been caught stealing from a Florida high school snack machine. He was discovered inside the snack machine stealing stuff and getting out. I guess you can leap in through the passageway, climb up where you need to go, grab what you want, come back down and climb back out. I think you can probably do that. But they caught him and they released him. Concerned citizens, again, cryptozoology. Concerned citizens believe Bigfoot was responsible for the recent spate of break-ins in New Hampshire. So Bigfoot is still out and about as well. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Krispy Kreme donuts is a thing now. So if you like your Reese's Peanut Butter stuff, go to Krispy Kreme, get some donuts with their stuff in it. New York does not have the best pizza. Chicago does in the United States, according to a study. I like Chicago deep dish. It's pretty good. New York pizza is okay, I guess. I don't think either of them really is the best. I don't know if there really is a best pizza, but right now, according to this study, Chicago has the best. Red panda triplets were born in a Virginia zoo. This is something that very rarely happens, so that's pretty good. There was a trailer for Kristen Stewart's new movie. It looks a little bit like a horror version of The Abyss called Underwater. It's about a group of people who are going to be in an underwater base, really deep underwater, and they discover some weird stuff happening that might be weird creatures that are unearthed during their experiments, stuff like that. So it's like the horror version of The Abyss. So it looked interesting. French couple may get up to 6 years in jail for stealing sand in Sardinia. I should name the episode Stealing Sand in Sardinia. But there's to get 6 years for stealing sand? That doesn't sound right. Officer sees marijuana that was mixed with jalapeno peppers for the extra spicy marijuana. So I don't know if that's good or bad. A pit bull fights off a shark to save his owner. I guess the owner was in a shallower end and the shark was coming after him. I don't think it was a very big shark, but still the dog protecting his owner is kind of cool. Johnny Walker's debating 2 new Game of Thrones whiskeys, Ice versus Fire. Granted, Game of Thrones is no longer on the air, but still, people are still going to like the show. So want to read it, and the books will be out soon. So there you go. The Cherokee National History Museum is going to open. I didn't see where it's opening up, but the fact that there is a Cherokee National History Museum is opening up is really good. I like that. The band Korn is going to play a virtual concert inside a video game. So I don't know if they're just going to record it and they're going to play it in the video game, or if they're actually going to perform a concert live via digital. They'll perform it and then they'll be sent to the video game. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. Florida man was arrested for taking Trump-shaped ecstasy pills. I don't have anything to say about that, except it's Florida man. YouTube, don't delete me, YouTube. I'm just reading the news, and I just found the story funny, and I can understand maybe where you're coming from. So don't delete me. YouTube deletes videos of robots fighting each other, calling it animal cruelty, which I just think is kind of funny because it gives robots who fight each other, I guess technically is like AI, I suppose, and that's living, that they call it animal cruelty. I'm glad you're not showing any animal cruelty videos, but to have robots fighting each other and calling them animal cruelty, I'm not sure if that's exactly right. But hey, you do you, YouTube. You're great. You're fantastic. Scientists accidentally grew a chicken with the face of a dinosaur. You don't accidentally grow chickens with the face of a dinosaur. You were trying something and see if it worked, and it did. So I don't know, we should be scared about that or not. Finally, the last story, going back to football, Andrew Luck, 7 years ago, was the first overall draft pick by the Colts, considered to be one of the greatest quarterbacks to play the game, or could have been one of the greatest quarterbacks to play the game, has declared his retirement after 7 years. Now, a lot of people are giving him flack about it because, unfortunately, his career has been wrecked with injuries. And a lot of people don't understand the toll that injuries can take on a body, particularly playing football, and particularly the fact that he had a terrible O-line. So he's at age 29, retiring after 7 years. It's a shame because he was set up to have, if he would have stayed healthy, he was set up to probably have a career season this year. But you also got to consider athletes are people also. They're hurt, injuries, they don't feel good. So more luck to him. Andrew Luck is retiring at the age of 29, 7 years in the NFL. This week is announced today, on this date today, 80 years ago, The Wizard of Oz premiered. This week in 2007, the movie Superbad premiered. 30 years ago this week, Saved by the Bell premiered on television. 10 years ago this week, Inglourious Basterds. I already talked about Quentin in good detail today. Well, this movie came out 10 years ago this week. And 40 years ago this week, The Life of Brian United States premiere was this week as well. So another great Monty Python film, a film I only watch during Easter. Hilarious and a lot more interesting than you think it might be. Finally, to finish up this episode, it is a Check Day. So let's check to see what the holidays are this week. There we go. Oh, we're 26th up. Okay. August 25th is Kiss and Makeup Day, National Banana Split Day, National Park Service Founders Day. So the National Park Service was founded on this day. National Secondhand Wardrobe Day and National Whiskey Sour Day. Sacrifice our wants for others' needs Sunday also is today. It's also Tim Burton's birthday, Sean Connery's birthday. Like 3 people I follow on Facebook, their birthdays are today. 2 people whose husbands, wives, whatever, I follow also, their birthdays are today also. My Uncle Frank's birthday is today. So it's a pretty interesting day and a big day. And as I said, it's also the National Park Day. August 24th was Can Opener Day, International Day Against Intolerance, Discrimination, and Violence Based on Musical Preference, Lifestyle, and Dress Code. August 24th was also International Strange Music Day, National Knife Day, National Peach Pie Day, National Waffle Day. Pluto demoted day, Shooting Star Day, Vesuvius Day, Weather Complaint Day, William Wilberforce Day. The 23rd was Buttered Corn Day, Cuban Sandwich Day, Daffodil Day, European Day of Remembrance for victims of Stalinism and Nazism, Hug Your Sweetheart Day, International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its Abolition, Internaut Day, National Cheap Flight Day, National Sponge Cake Day, Ride the Wind Day, Valentino Day. And then tomorrow, the 26th, is going to be National Web Mistress Day, Women's Equality Day, National Toilet Paper Day, National Dog Day is tomorrow, National Cherry Popsicle Day, Musical Yoga Day, Motorist Consideration Monday, and Make Your Own Luck Day. So that's what's going on with that. And that is today's episode of Dylan Knows. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was a fun one. Next week is 3-day weekend, Labor Day weekend, the official end of summer. Meteorological fall begins next weekend, next Sunday, actually, I believe. So we're getting into the meaty part of the year, the good part of the year. And stay tuned. I might go back to my Saturday night show. Okay. See you guys later. Just over 2 hours and away we go. Happy birthday, Noah. Big 10 years old. Love you guys and love you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.